Hey, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Zach. I am here with Coach Brandy and Coach Caden. And today we are talking about silently quitting. So signs that you might be quitting and not even recognize it. But before we get into today's topic, we want to give a little shout out to a client of the week. And I'm going to go to Coach Caden because this was your pick. So,
all right. So I just want to make sure I get the last name right here. So Allison Barrett, right? Barrett. I'm sorry, Allison. I'm sorry. So Allison, I just want to give you a shout out. You've been crushing it here recently, making it in nice and early in the mornings. You push yourself every time, and I really just appreciate you coming in with your good attitude and the drive that you have. So thank you.
Allison's awesome. I think you could call her Barrett and she probably wouldn't care, right? But maybe that's how they originally said it, and now it's just we just say Barrett. Allison's been a member for a long time. I don't remember when she started, maybe like 2016, 2017, and just one of our most consistent clients. I mean, she's here, 6 days a week normally?
Yes.
6 days a week. Like, that's hardcore. She's one of maybe like 5 that do that and just crushes it. So, yeah, Allison, you're awesome.
I love her energy every time I train her. She's one of those, like, she ignites people around her, which is amazing.
Yeah, she's the 7 a.m. Breakfast Club. That's the group, the 7 a.m. Breakfast Club. I could tell you who's not silently quitting, and that's Allison Barrett. All right, guys. So this topic is something that the purpose of us doing this is to get people to recognize the signs before it's too late, right? And there's this really interesting dynamic with psychology that we have in our industry. So I've talked about this on previous episodes, but when somebody comes in and they meet with me for the very first time and they're interested in starting a training program, that's usually like there was something that motivated them enough to be uncomfortable, to come to the gym, to in an intimidating place, and be very intimate with me, sharing like, hey, I'm unhappy with the way I look, the way I feel, I'm having health issues, whatever it is. That's not like a super enjoyable conversation usually, right? And that at that point, like somebody's pain is the highest, right? It's just they're like, I have to do something. And so they take some action and they come and meet with me. And as soon as we have a conversation and we have a game plan, I'm like, here's what we're going to do to fix this problem. They hand me their credit card. They're like, okay, I'm ready to go, right? And they sign up. As soon as they do that, their pain has subsided a little bit. Even though they haven't achieved anything yet, they haven't even done a workout, they just feel better about themselves because they've taken some action, right? Then they come in and they do a workout, right? And they feel better about themselves because they took some action, right? And with every single workout that they do, they feel better about themselves. Their pain starts to go down. And even though they haven't necessarily accomplished that much, it's like they're not as motivated because pain is a great motivator, right? And I'm not talking about physical pain. I mean, sometimes that's the case, right? Yeah. But I'm just talking about this emotional like turmoil of who I see in the mirror is not who I am, right? It's that conflict. And what most people don't realize is, well, one, they don't realize that, right? That the better results that they get, the less motivated they are to continue, right? And the other piece of it that they don't realize is that people are zebras, right? So if you think about I know it doesn't. Hold on, stay with me. If you think about a zebra, right? What's the purpose of a zebra's stripes?
To blend in with the surroundings.
To blend in, right? And that is where people are most comfortable. If they are overweight, right? I guess in today's society, you kind of blend in, but there's this subconscious feeling of like, oh, people are looking at me and it's not in a good way, right? Mm-hmm. Well, on the opposite end of that, people don't necessarily want to be looked at in a good way and stand out from the crowd. And so in their mind, when they first start, they're like, man, I want to be hot, right? Like I want to get to this level where people look at me and I'm like, I'm looking really good, right? And I want to feel good about myself. Subconsciously, they don't really want that. They just want to be comfortable enough to blend in so that nobody is really noticing them in a good or a bad way. And so there's this really complex psychology of what we do, because when somebody comes in and we're like, okay, here's the game plan, here's how we're going to get you results, right? They're super motivated, but then once they start getting results, they're no longer in pain. And if they continue to get better results, it's going to make them uncomfortable. And so they basically self-sabotage, right? And at that point, that's when people start silently quitting. That's when they miss a workout, right? And then a week of working out. That's when over the weekend they eat garbage, right? And they binge a little bit and they drink a little bit, and it snowballs into this, and it snowballs into a point where it's like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm not gonna go work out anymore. Cancel my gym membership, right? Cancel my training membership. I'm not gonna do anything for the next year and a half, 2 years, until I'm in so much pain again that I have to start this process over. And think about that from our perspective. I know I'm going long here. I want to bring you guys into the conversation, but think about that from our perspective. You put yourself in our shoes for a minute. Our life is about helping people.
Right.
And that's what we're up against. The better results that we get our clients, the less likely they are to stay with us and continue to pay us. The better job that we do, the less value we have. Mind-blowing, right? Mind-blowing when you put it in that perspective. So I'm not willing to say that we're not going to do our best to get you the results that you want. But what we now, recognizing this, have to do is have podcast episodes like this where we're like, recognize this about yourself and stop self-sabotaging, and let's get you to the point where you are confident and comfortable standing out in a really, really positive way. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm done for the whole episode. Brandy, you're up.
It's interesting. Like, I wasn't quite sure where this was going to go, but what you're saying is true. I agree with it. I think one of the things that I hear, especially from, I would say more from females than from males, is, they come in at first and they're really excited and their momentum is great and they're working out and they're really starting to feel better. And then they hit that point and they're like, but I don't want to get too bulky. Like, I'm afraid, I'm not sure I want to do these upper body lifts anymore because I don't want my arms to be too big, or I don't want to get too big. And that seems to be like, I'm just going to call it an excuse. That seems to be one of the excuses, or maybe one of the reasons that is shared in terms of, how they're silently quitting is like, that's their rationale for it.
They want to be a zebra.
Right.
They want to be a zebra.
Right.
They're like, I don't want my arms to look too good.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, when they start, they're like, I want my arms to look like that. I want my butt to look like that, right? Yeah. They're like, I'd do anything for that, but they won't, right? Caden.
Oh, so I guess, my thoughts on, I guess, silent quit in the gym is one thing that I just want to talk about is like when you're injured. And I'm going to say that's just been kind of a big thing that I've seen is like, hey, I've got a hurt shoulder. Okay, I'm just going to take 2 weeks off, or I'm going to take 3 weeks off, or hey, I need this amount of time to recover. And you have so many different muscles, so many different tendons, joints, so many different things that you can work in the weight room. So I'm going to say don't let that single injury be the thing that causes you to silently quit the gym.
Yeah, and is it just because people are soft? just because like they're mentally weak. I don't want to be too harsh with somebody, but we've got members that will show up and train no matter what, right?
Yep.
And there's a million exercises out there, and we might not be able to do 10 of them, right? But we can do all the other stuff, right?
Yes.
And then you've got the person that's like, I broke a nail, I can't come in for the next week.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so yeah, that's another piece of it is like, this is too hard. Well, and people go towards comfort. They move towards comfort, not pain, right? And so the pain part of it might be, hey, I got to work through this injury. I don't want to do that. I want to stay comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And that can lead somebody to, I don't even know if that you would consider that silently quitting.
Well, I think it's like, what is the focus, whether it's, the feeling uncomfortable or feeling in pain or feeling like they don't want to push themselves, or, or focusing on the negative. So if they're hurt, yeah, you could focus on the negative and say, I'm not going to come to the gym because I can't move my arm. Or you could reframe that and say, what can I do in the gym today? Maybe I can't move my arm, but I can do so many other things, and it's just reframing. And I think that has to do with a lot of the mindset around silently quitting. It's reframing.
And that actually kind of talking on like some of that mindset, like reframing stuff, because like exactly what you said, Zach, I'm going to say 2020, the beginning of 2020, I actually didn't step foot into a gym for about a year and 2 months. And I remember specifically talking to my mom on the phone, and I said, I don't understand. I said, Mom, I'm done going to the gym. I said, I've worked so hard for so long. I said, I'm strong. I said, my body hasn't changed in however long. I said, 8 months, whatever. I said, yep, I'm just done. A year goes by, my body hurt. I was down 20 pounds of muscle, felt like garbage. So like when I say like to our clients, like, I'm going to say, don't put yourself in that situation. Like I'm going to say, like, it was hard to come back. It was harder to get back the second time than it was to get there the first time. So just keep pushing, keep going. Like I promise the hard work pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's way harder to get in shape than it is to just stay in shape. Right. It doesn't take that much to like work out 3 times a week and maintain your level of fitness. Right. The thing is that I think this almost always comes down to dollars, right? It's like people value money. Mm-hmm. And when go back to that time that person comes in and meets with me, very first time, the amount of pain they're in, it's like they'll pay just about anything to get out of that pain, right? And when that pain decreases a little bit, right? Now it's like, well, I would pay anything before, but now I'm only going to pay this, right? And then the pain goes down a little bit more. And so the value that we have, right, that we're providing to somebody decreases, right? That's how they look at it, right? Caden, that's a perfect scenario because of what you went through to compare that, because I can't tell you how many times over the years somebody has gotten in great shape here, stopped, and then had to come back and start over a year, 2 years later, 3 years later, right? And it's like, why did you do that to yourself? Because it was like you didn't see the value at that time, right? Or because you weren't aware of it. You weren't thinking about it. It was like, oh, I'm not in much pain anymore. I'm going to take those dollars and apply it to something else, right? Instead of remembering how much value your body and your health has and focusing on that versus just like the fact that you wanted to lose 20 pounds, 40 pounds, whatever it is, right? And so I think we want people to be aware of this. We want people to, if you're listening to this, whether you're a member, a client of ours, or you're somebody that just, listens to the podcast and works out, it's like, pause, right? Now is a perfect opportunity for you to pause and for you to do some future casting, right? And go both directions, right? I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about what your life will look like, your health will look like in a year if you stop working out and eating right today. And then alternatively, take a minute, 60 seconds, and think about what your life's going to look like if you don't. Mm-hmm. And you just keep going, right? And you just keep pushing and you just keep working at it. It's the thing is that everybody thinks that they're going to be okay, right? How often have we had a member cancel, or somebody's come to you, Brandy, and they're like, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And we're like, what's your plan? And they're like, I'm going to go to the gym on my own, right? Or I've got a gym at home. And it's like, I remember when you came and signed up and you told me you had a gym at home that you hadn't been in in the last 2 years, right? What's changed? What has made you think that you've had to have an appointment and you've had to pay money and you've had to make sure that you had the accountability and the community supporting you to show up here 3-4 times a week? As soon as we wipe that out and there's none of that motivating you, what makes you think that you can now just go and do it by yourself on your own?
Right. It's not going to happen.
That people don't get that, right? We've created this environment for you to succeed. You get rid of the environment, it's like, ooh, all that's really left is your discipline. And how much of that did you have before you started, and how much have you developed?
Yeah. And I would encourage people, whether you're new to this or you've been doing it for a little while, it's a behavior shift. Changes don't happen quickly. Things are going to take time. And I think sometimes there's some frustration around people want things to happen quickly and they want to see that change like really quickly.
This is like the flip side, right?
Right. The flip side
I get discouraged.
Yes, they get discouraged. If they don't see the results they want in 2 weeks, then they're discouraged and they're frustrated. And then they're silently quitting, and then they stop coming in because the change isn't happening as quickly as they expected it to happen. But it's really a lifestyle change, and to be healthy in the long term and to see the change and the results that you want, it has to be a lifestyle change and something that, frankly, you need to do from now until the rest of your life.
Oh, preach it, Brandy.
If you want to be healthy and active, right? And it's like making that mindset flip.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's, are you in this for the right reasons, right? Like when somebody starts, right, if it's all about the aesthetic piece, I'm not saying that's not important. Absolutely. Like if you work out, you should reap the reward for it, right? And improve the way that you look. But are you doing it for that? And once you accomplish that, you're done? Or are you doing it for yourself and your health and your longevity and how you feel and really making it a lifestyle, right? And I'm so glad you brought that up, because your why is really powerful, right? And if your why is a short-term thing, then your results and your program is going to be a short-term thing, right? So, anything else to add? No,
I think we're good. I think we nailed it.
We nailed it.
Make that shift. I want people to really think of themselves as like that inner athlete that is, maybe they don't recognize themselves in that way, but that exists within you somewhere, and just trying to, feed that and grow that, and you will thank yourself for it.
And there's no finish line.
No.
There's never a finish line. When you die, who knows, right? After that. But up until that point, there's definitely no finish line. All right, guys, that's all we got for you today. We'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.